Hello, 8th graders. Let's start together a new activity, Activity 6, Intestinal Absorption. First, what is meant by intestinal absorption? It is the passage of nutrients into the blood and the lymph through the wall of the small intestine. This is the small intestine. The outer layer of the small intestine is smooth, while the inner layer of the small intestine is rough or rigid because of the presence of the villi. Lumen is the center of the organ. So the small intestine consists of the outer layer, which is a smooth layer, the inner rough layer, and also the lumen, which is the center of the small intestine. Characteristics of the small intestine. This is a cross-section of the small intestine. The small intestine consists of two layers, as we said before, an outer smooth layer and an inner rough layer due to the presence of many ridges. These are the ridges inside the small intestine that are covered with numerous villi. Each villus is a finger-like projection. This is a villus, this is another one, this is a third one, has its network of blood and lymphatic vessels. Characteristics that facilitate the absorption at the level of the intestinal villi. What are the factors that facilitate the intestinal absorption process at the level of the small intestine, which is the passage of nutrients into the blood in order the blood or the lymph in order to be distributed to all the body organs? First, the wall of the villus is very thin. Second, the small intestine contains a very large number of villi. Third, each villus is rich in its own network of blood vessels and lymphatic vessels. Here, this is the villus. It is rich in blood vessels. They have here a red color, and lymphatic vessels. These three factors or characteristics facilitate the absorption at the level of the intestinal villi. The intestinal villus is made up of intestinal cells. Each intestinal cell have cilia or microvilli at one side. The fate of the nutrients after digestion. This line graph shows at which organ of the digestive tube the absorption takes place. First, the title of this line graph is percentage of proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids found in the digestive tube as a function of distance of absorption from the mouth in centimeter. First, in the esophagus and the stomach, the percentage of proteins, carbohydrates, and lipids is constant at 100%. This percentage starts to decrease in the small intestine until it becomes zero or null at a distance of 170 centimeter from the mouth for carbohydrates and at a distance of 220 centimeter from the mouth for lipids and at a distance of 270 or 80 centimeter from the mouth for proteins. This indicates that the absorption takes place at the level of the small intestine, and the absorption of carbohydrates is the fastest because it takes place at the smallest distance from the mouth, and the absorption of proteins is the slowest because it takes place at the biggest distance or the biggest distance from the mouth. Let's discuss together this document in Activity 6. Rate of nutrients in the blood after crossing the small intestine in gram per liter. the concentration of a glucose increase from 0.28 to 1 gram per liter into 1.5 to 1.8 gram per liter. The concentration of amino acids also increases from 0.5 gram per liter into 15 gram per liter. Also that of lipids increases from 4 to 7 to 20 gram per liter. This increase is explained by the fact that food is digested, transformed into nutrients, and absorbed by the blood. So these nutrients pass from the small intestine after digestion or at the end of digestion. Okay, these nutrients pass from the small intestine into the blood. Variation in the nutrients concentration in the blood and in the lymphatic vessels that leave the small intestine. This table shows where the nutrients pass after the absorption. Here, the concentration of water, glucose, amino acids, and mineral ions increase in the blood. This indicates that these nutrients cross the wall of the small intestine into the blood, while the concentration of water, fatty acids, and mineral ions increase in the lymph. This indicates that water, fatty acids, and glycerol and mineral ions pass or cross the wall of the small intestine into the lymphatic vessels. As a result, water, glucose, amino acids, and mineral ions cross the wall of the small intestine into the blood vessel, while water, fatty acids, and glycerol and mineral ions pass into the lymphatic vessel.